It's hard to assess whether there would be damage done if the club wasn't here. I think it's easier to look at the benefits of having a football league club in the town, and it's something that we get on very well with our local council. I think they accept that having a football league town is very good for tourism because it brings people into the area. Our last home game we had 1,700 Shrewsbury fans who came up to watch a game here at Accrington. Now, while they were in the town, they bought some drinks. They were in the town centre, so they will have something to eat. They're using the local transport network. So there's 1,700 people that wouldn't normally come into Accrington last Saturday that came in and spent money in the town. But as well as that, I think we'd like to think we have a very positive impact within the town. We have our community department that goes out into all our schools, and they do a lot of work with kids in terms of racial awareness and drugs, education, health. And this is all stuff that we pull funding down as being part of a football league club. So we'd like to think that while we look to the local people to help the club and come and watch us and pay the money to buy the season tickets, also being a football league club helps us to put something back into the town.
Sure. Obviously, I think the population of Accrington's about 35,000 as a town, something like that. So obviously the catchment area is not very large compared to some of the other clubs in the football league. How difficult is that for a club who has started again, like with attracting fans and stuff like that? Because obviously that's the heartbeat of any club, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. we punch above our weight. There's no doubt about that. We, compared to the other clubs around us, the kind of money that they spend on players and their facilities, we very much punching above our weight. But we rely on a lot of goodwill from the people of Accrington. Although it's very small, people are very proud of the football club. And also away from the town as well. I think having an unusual name, Accrington Stanley, the fact that we went out of business and fought our way back, the milk advert, all these things kind of help us to attract supporters who aren't necessarily in Accrington. We've just done a large share issue. We've sold about 700 shares now, and less than half of them are actually from Accrington. So we've sold them literally all over the world: Brazil, America, Australia, Canada, and that's all people who have a kind of that affinity for Accrington Stanley, and we look to build on that and use that to try and even the tables a little bit.
Sure. Just to follow up on two things that you touched on there, you said obviously about the club coming back, refusing to die. The banner out there says Accrington Stanley, the club that wouldn't die. We're seeing a lot of clubs sort of coming back from the brink, if you like. You know, your Chesters, going further back, Aldershot. Obviously, it's good that the club off the pitch is showing that sort of fighting spirit, but surely it can't be good to get in that situation in the first place, can it? And it must be quite damaging for the community.
No, it is, and you don't want to criticise other football clubs, and obviously clubs carry on and survive the way that they do by going through into administration, because that option's open to them. And probably Accrington Stanley, if administration was an option back in the 60s, they'd probably have done the same. But I think you'd like to think it's a little bit different for clubs like ourselves. We built up debts that were too much. Things kind of conspired against us back in the 60s. There was a number of reasons why it happened. We couldn't pay our bills, and the club went out of existence like any other company would. So we started again from scratch, and I think you kind of get a little bit of respect for kind of going out and coming back up and building your way back up to where we are now. But I think for any other club that does it, I think there's a lot of you'd like to think people take a lot of heart from looking at Accrington Stanley, and a lot of the clubs now that are getting into the football league are smaller clubs that are working their way up, and it's not the kind of closed shop that the football league used to be. So now you've got Accrington Stanley, Dagenham, Redbridge, Morecambe, Burton, Fleetwood have just been promoted, Stevenage have been promoted again. They're doing very well in League One. So I think it's good for clubs, not just conference clubs, but conference north, conference south clubs, and even below that, can see that with a couple of promotions that there is a realistic opportunity to get back into the football league.
Sure. And the other thing that you spoke about in your previous answer was about the share scheme. I understand the chairman obviously made a significant investment in 2009. Just explain a little bit about the share scheme, because it appears that you're trying to give the club back to the fans, if you like.
I think that's the idea. I think there are some scheduled changes at board level that will happen fairly soon. I think the chairman's kind of looking to take a step back, and there'll be some new directors that come on board and take control of the running of the club. But I think the big thing that the chairman wants now is for not to have one person who is in control of the club. So there'll be a number of directors, all will have a number of shares. And going back to the share scheme, selling the shares all over literally all over the world, the idea is to have as many people who have an involvement in the club. So you get a lot of people who feel like they have some ownership, because the genuine shares, people have a genuine vote at the AGM. And I think the key to the success of Accrington is to people genuinely feeling like they have some ownership of Accrington Stanley and that their opinion matters.
Sure. And so obviously, if it's going to be owned by supporters of the club, that's going to give it a real organic feel, isn't it?
You'd like to think so, and I think certainly the directors that were looking to come in over the next few weeks or so are all good Accrington people. They're all very much fans of the club and they want the best for the club. But you don't have to be a director to have a say in the running of the club. I think we're a very open club. The front door is always open. It's probably unprecedented, the kind of access that you get to, whether it's the chief exec, the manager of the club. We're all quite happy to answer questions, and I think the position that we're in, we're here to do a job. We do the best we can for Accrington. And if somebody has any kind of questions as to why we do things a certain way, then the door is always open for people to come in and ask.